So, welcome everybody to our next kind of little podcast there. My name is Jeanette Delahunty and I own TSK Academy. And we are holding a conference this Friday, the 22nd of March in Kilkenny City. It's all about neurodiversity in education. For those of you that don't know what neurodiversity is, it's all about differently wired brains. So, we're looking at the neurotypical and the neurodivergent and how we can harmonise our work and life balance so that we're kind of in sync and everybody is supported in a way that suits them. Okay, so with me now today, I have John Wills, and John Wills is the proud owner of School Supports, and he's a psychotherapist and CBT practitioner. You're very, very welcome along here today, John. I'm absolutely delighted to have you, and I'm delighted that you're going to be delivering a talk there at the conference on Friday. So, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Jeanette. I'm just the most technically psychologist, but doing psychotherapy through, yeah.
Thank you.
So look,
Sorry.
no problem, no problem. But look, thank you, and it's a real honor to be able to be there. So yeah, I'm John Wills. I suppose I wear a number of caps in my work, but as a psychologist, I work a lot using CBT with clients. So that's cognitive behavioral therapy. For many of your listeners will be aware of that, and I work a lot with anxiety-based presentations. And I suppose over the years, since working in that since about 2016, I've seen a lot of what we often see as the maybe typical presentations, but with neurodiversity among that, and that has presented certain opportunities and challenges within the therapeutic space. So I've learned a lot from my clients who have come with different issues, and I've needed to find ways, I suppose, of sometimes creatively using the tools that would be usually used with seen as tools that can be used with just anybody, but actually need a little bit of adaptation. As well as working clinically, I'm also a lecturer for PCI College. So I lecture in psychotherapy on the BSc and the MSc programs that they deliver. So I suppose I see the educational side, and a lot of our own learners would also, there'll be a lot of neurodiversity among the student cohort. I'm also a year ahead for the first years, so I would hear a lot of the different types of experience that students have had. So yeah, so I suppose that's what I do. I do a bit of consultancy then with schools and organizations around mental health and even cyber safety in primary and secondary schools. So I suppose I wear a few different caps, but that's me briefly, I suppose.
Amazing. You actually have a whole program for schools, don't you? I saw that on your website.
Yeah, I try to I deliver effectively a kind of a needs led service for students that have for schools and students with specific educational needs in terms of programs. Generally speaking, the most common sorts of workshops I'd be delivering in schools would be in cyber safety, bullying, and mental health well-being. That would generally be the stuff. And I would deliver that with students, parents, and teachers. So ideally getting those three important cohorts of the education, sectors spoken to. So yeah, I do a bit of that.
That's amazing, and it's definitely much needed. Tell me, what led you to this path, the path of psychology, and what led you down this road?
I think like many people, we end up in things not by intention but by accident. And I think that's so true of myself. So when I left school and went into college, I hadn't a clue what I wanted to do. I had no idea at all. I did humanities. And in the course in humanities, we did anthropology, psychology, English, and different things. But one of the things that stood out to me, and I had more than a passing kind of interest in, was the psychology uh, component in that course. And then in the college I was in, which is now no longer there, but has been subsumed by Dublin Business School. So DBS is still very much there. They were offering if you completed the humanities, they were offering those students who graduated from it the opportunity to go in and do a degree in either anthropology, psychology, different areas like that. I went and did the BA in psychology. Then I stayed there, didn't want to leave. The outside world was scary. I didn't want to leave, so I did an MA then in addiction. I never worked technically in addiction, but did the master's in it. And then I left in 2004 and I worked for the NGO sector. So my employment history would have been, I worked for Aware first as an education officer. So that was going into schools, and I was delivering their depression awareness program at the time called Beat the Blues. And it was a depression awareness program for teenagers. But that very much got me into the clinical kind of the side of psychology that interfaces with challenges, like depression particularly. And then I stayed in Aware for a number of years, and then I went from Aware into Bernardo's, and again brought me very much into needs of children, needs of those in communities that struggle. And again, it was in the NGO area, but it was very much it was a huge eye-opening experience, particularly in Bernardo's, learning about all the different challenges and having some great, fantastic, I suppose, colleagues. And then I suppose from there, that got me very much into, I suppose, Jeanette, into the schools. I was very much working in schools. I had built good relationships with schools. Um, and then I suppose from that point I realized that, look, the clinical side was calling for me, so I did a diploma in CBT, and then started in 2016 really was when I left and I went out on my own. I took that leap, which was slightly scary, but took the leap anyway. And it started to work out, and schools wanted me, although I had to do different things with the schools because of the different programs, but schools still wanted. What I learned then, actually, Jeanette, was that there was a clear, schools had needs that required a nuanced approach. It wasn't good enough just to deliver standardized programs or kind of a standardized thing. That each school would be aware of their own challenges and needs, and therefore it gave me great autonomy and great independence to be able to go and create bespoke training for them. And I suppose to this day, I still do have an element of my consultancy is very much still working with schools in that manner.
Yes, yeah, and it's definitely something that I've noticed as well, going into schools, and people would be asking, "Can you come and talk to us about autism or ADHD or sensory processing?" But when you get there, it's so much more than they need. It's not just a regular, training that they need. They're actually struggling with a particular child, usually, or a number of children, and they need that out of the box thinking that you can just go, "Do you know what? Put that slideshow down. Let's get to the nitty gritty and find out what's really going on." And I think those kind of supports are essential, John. What you're doing there is essential to the schools, to be able to go in and do that. There's not many people that can. It's absolutely amazing. So I asked you to come and talk at the conference, and I think it's going to be a great day. I'm hoping it's going to be a great day. Why did you decide that this was the conference for you to talk at?
Well, I suppose when you first reached out, I was aware that uh, a lot of what your needs were and how you were approaching meeting the needs around neurodiversity for putting on the conference. I felt that maybe I might be able to be a contributor in terms of share with others a little bit of my experience around, from the things I see both clinically and educationally, some things that might be able to help others um, be able to respond to the needs of neurodiverse individuals a little bit better, because I think again, it's not a one size fits all. There's a massive range of diversity in neurodiversity, as we now know, and there's an awful lot to be learned from both from the experiences I've had. I've learned a lot, but also from hearing other people, and a conference is a great opportunity for me myself to hear things and to pick up on different things that are in the area.
Yeah, absolutely. So give us a little sneaky idea as to what your talk will be about on the day. Don't give too much away now because people won't
No,
want
I
to
won't give it
come.
too much away, but a sneak peek.
Sneak
Well, I
peek.
suppose I'm very much, again, like I'm very, very eager and looking forward to it. One of the challenges for me is it's a very tight time frame to deliver, but I'll deliver within that time. So what people can expect from me, I suppose, is a a little bit of an outline as to how things since 2013 in the DSM-5, which I know is a clinical kind of maybe beginning, it might sound, but how things have changed and how some of the factors that we need to be aware of when it comes to neurodiversity, and also then some of the important, maybe complicating factors they need to be aware of when supporting the needs of those who do present with neurodivergence, and being aware of that, I suppose. And I see that a lot in my, as I said earlier, in both my clinical and educational work. I see a lot of what can help. So I hope to share some of those things that will help
Yeah.
on the day, and some things that maybe people who are either educators or working in a service that is, that is very, very supportive to a range of clients might be able to gain from it. And I think, I suppose as well, one of the things, Jeanette, and again, I know it might seem like a different area, but an area I'm very passionate about as well is trauma.
Yes.
And one of the things in trauma is about, we're seeing more and more, is the concept of trauma-informed practice. Now, one of the reasons they speak about that is that when people meet people, they have no idea what their backgrounds are and their stories are. But likewise, what we know about that is you won't do any harm to someone who hasn't been traumatized if you're aware of trauma when you work with people. In the same way as working with neurodivergence and using tools that help someone with neurodivergence, that's not going to affect someone who isn't neurodivergent. So therefore, there is a win-win. I suppose a need to appreciate these things would be important.
Yeah, I think it's huge, and trauma is something I'm also very passionate about. It's what I'll actually be covering, trauma more so on my talk, but um, I'm not altogether certain if I'm going to go with my slides that I've done. To be honest, I think I might go down a different route now, but we will see. We will see. Um, yeah, trauma is huge, and everybody really has been affected by trauma, whether it's personally or by somebody that they know. So it's really, really important that we have that approach, and we're thinking outside the box, in that, somebody's gone through something at the end of the day. So what would be the key takeaways? What do you hope they're going to go away from it?
I suppose being aware of things they can practically do, in terms of maybe things they can put into their existing work, maybe some tips that they might pick up from that, maybe be a little bit more aware of the needs that present, and be aware of the sorts of, when working with emotions, when working with feelings, and when working with behaviors, to maybe understand the reason we see these behaviors as we do. And being aware of, the uniqueness that each person with, who will be neurodivergent will have. So hopefully something, what I hope as a takeaway is some practical tools those listening can actually implement.
Amazing. So people are going to want to ask you questions, John. There's no doubt about it. How long are you going to be around for people to ask you questions? And are you happy for people just to approach you and ask you questions?
I was more than happy to. And now it'll be about noon when I'm there, but from there, I'll be there, and I'll be there for my slot, obviously, and I'll be there. People are more than welcome to approach me, link in afterwards. My contact details will be there for them, so there'll be no problem with that. I really, really welcome the connection.
Amazing. So finally, okay, how can people get in touch with you? So if there's a school that's listening in and they want to book you, or if somebody wants to book you for consultations or talks, how do we get in touch?
Okay, well, there's the old-fashioned mobile, which is which you can pop up, but that's 087 642 9324. And then there's my website, which is schoolsupports.com. And then there's my personal email, which is perfect as well, which is johngp, for Gerard Patrick, Wills, WILLS, @gmail.com. So any of those three are perfect.
That's amazing. Thank you very much, John. It's been an absolute pleasure. We're looking forward to seeing you on the day. It's going to be very insightful, I know, and there's so many talks. I'm quite excited to listen to them all, to be honest. But it's going to be a great day, and I think there's going to be a lot of key takeaways, and especially from your talk as well. So we're looking forward to seeing you. And I know you've got a busy schedule and children to deal with, so I'll let you go. And thanks very much for taking the time with me there today.
Thanks, Jeanette. Looking forward to it.